Thank you, sir. This was a very interesting talk session. I'm sure our audience is ready with the questions. So I would like to request all our speakers and moderators to take their seats on. I would request our moderator, Mr. Mikul Goyal, to please come upon the stage and say a few words.
I think this was a dream session. Having Shirish Bedi with us, having Salvador with us, having Viraj with us, I think this was a coup. Never have we had such a team speak on one stage. All three are good enough to give a keynote address on their own. And today we have them with us. And I would definitely like the audience to make full use of this opportunity. So, do we have questions? Just raise your hands. I want to just see how many people are ready to ask questions. Any hands in the audience? Okay, good. That means we do have a lot of questions coming up. And that's very good because we do not want to have a silent audience. We do not want to have a silent session. We want an interactive session to happen, and that is why we had a panel discussion. So I would like to invite, without taking much time, because we have approximately 20 minutes for this panel discussion. So I'd quickly like, I'd quickly like to invite the speakers onto stage. Thank you. All of us sometimes miss out on some very interesting points. Like Viraj is actually a landscape architect practicing in an area where practically there is no land, Hong Kong. So he showed you photographs also, and I was also wondering why is he showing me these photographs? Because practically there's no land. But he is doing a lot of good work, and he actually showed to us the challenges that a person or an architect faces in a high-rise, high-density situation. So vertical greens and the green terraces are something. He has actually shown us how the natural environment is actually an element of architecture. It is not something different, if a side. And especially those buildings which have been wrapped around trees, I think I am going to carry that. I'm going to carry that back, and if I don't have a tree, he has actually transformed the way people moved in Barcelona, and you must have seen it in his slides, that how he's integrated various movement systems. Unfortunately, a lot of us believe that movement is four-wheeler, two-wheeler, that's it. We close the story there and then. So then we start fighting with each other for parking spaces and crossings and etc., etc. But he's defined that through architecture we should actually be working on a super block kind of situation. A super block means we have roads outside the block rather than having them inside the block, so that we can free up those inner roads and use them for alternate modes of transportation, that is cycling or probably just walking. This is something which actually has to be carried back, and especially a lot of us who are doing big campuses, big campus designs, this should be something which we should remember. And now I'd like to hand over the session to the audience, and let me see some hands which I saw earlier for the question. Yes, of course. Xavier, another of our speakers. Is there a mic on the floor?
No, you can give one of these. We can do with one.
I want to ask to Salvador, what do you think about the public transport, and what do you think about the electrical vehicles for the future?
Question. In this case, the superblock is a new cell from 400 for 400 meters. And when you have this, you can make a network also with public transport. In Jaipur would be very easy to do this. Very easy. Because the main street you have. And then the public transport. I could design a new bus network for Barcelona, involve this project in this mobility plan. And it's an orthogonal network. And it's the base to design the superblocks. The bus network, not the car network. Okay? It's very important. And after that, with this network, you can have a frequency of bus about 4 or 5 minutes. Only in this moment is 15 minutes with the same number of buses. You can reduce only because you have a new topology of network. Okay? And also you can connect one point with the other. Doesn't import what is the destination. In the 95% with a unique transport. 95 is like a naval battle. It's possible to understand for a child of 7 years. Then it's very important. And the second is what is the future? The electrical vehicles. For me, the most important vehicle in the future of our cities is the electrical bicycle. Attention, not the car. Electrical bicycle, because don't consume energy, not noise. The speed, if it is homologated, will be 25 kilometers per hour maximum. Is an air conditioning vehicle. In this case, in Jaipur, it's very important this, okay? If not, you will be wet. In this case, not. And also, it's very healthy. And you can go for slopes a maximum 20% of slope. Okay, it's very important to this for the several cities with this problem. And the length and an average travel in electrical bicycle is 10 kilometers. Attention. And the competitiveness of the electrical bicycle related with the cars is at a distance of 11 kilometers, you arrive quickly than the car. 11 kilometers. It means practically more than the half of.
So what you're actually saying is that there should be public should be encouraged to use bigger forms of transportation, like you mentioned, buses, rather than using a unit meaning a car. Cars should be avoided, buses should be used, and if they are using a unit, it should be in the form of a cycle, and an electric form of a cycle definitely would make it even better. Here I like to put a point towards Hong Kong, in which Viraj will help us. I went to Hong Kong last year, and the most amazing part of that city was that you could walk from wherever you wanted. I mean, each and every bus terminal, each and every metro station, each and every ferry station was connected with a walkway. So all you had to do was catch the correct overhead walkway. They were all overhead walkways, and they would pass through buildings. So it was not something which was built separately. These walkways were integrated with all the buildings. So you could actually enter the buildings at the first and second floors. Oh, Viraj, what would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, I think city which is like Hong Kong. I think the beauty of Hong Kong is it's very compact because the build-up area is very small. So that's why we can have a big areas, which I just mentioned very briefly, to like a nature reserve where during weekend you can just go for a walk and then go and then and then be connected with just the wilderness, which we generally call. And what Mukul just mentioned is the unique way, the two things that works very well in Hong Kong is this very excellent public transport system. Actually, for my office, I generally walk to office or take a bus. Because for me, it's faster, it's quicker, because you have to park your car, you have to, you need to find a space. So that really works because it helps people out to actually make it a much more cost-effective way of transport. And secondly, what Mukul also mentioned about this walking through the city. Actually, you can perceive the city in two ways. One on the ground floor, which is you can see the building on the top like New York. And another one is elevated walkway. So you can look down to another layer. So I think Hong Kong is very unique from that point of view. So we have the perception of the city from two levels. Of course, you can go up on top of the terrace and look down to the spectacular Victoria Harbour and the views beyond. But that makes it really sustainable and also kind of environment friendly and then very compact as a zone.
Salvador mentioned a very important point, and that was about climate. That in Jaipur, Viraj, I'd like you to answer this one. That in Jaipur, it's so hot, it'll be very difficult to walk across or probably cycle through the... How has Hong Kong catered to this problem? Because Hong Kong is also very hot and humid. I mean, a person can get suffocated sometimes.
Yeah, I think there's a big debate going on in Hong Kong because of the heat island effect. Because now I think there's a double-edged sword. I think we want to keep the city compact, but the population is very high. Well, there are two ways to do it. Whether you forget about being a compact city, bigger city spread around, or you go up. And once you go up, the streets becomes narrow, and then always you are buildings on two sides, and then we have the cars. So that really creates a lot of big issue now in Hong Kong government trying to really address this kind of problem. So I think sometimes what they're doing sort of like a traffic system. So maybe they take the load from from certain roads, and now there's certain regulation that you have to offset your building and making sure that enough pedestrian movement that actually and create some corridors, for example for wind movement, etc. So then the city doesn't become really too stifling. The climate in Hong Kong is kind of humid. Now it's rainy and quite hot. So not as hot in Jaipur, but I think it really that's the way actually we can handle it.
So any questions from the audience? I have seen, yes, please. Can I have a mic out there?
Hi. Can you hear me? I guess this question is to Salvador.
Hey, but can you give me your name and from where are you from?
My name is Oyun Sen. I'm from SEPT Ahmedabad and practicing architect in Calcutta. We're also the faculty of urban design in Kamala Raja, Bombay. My question is, when I looked at Viraj's presentation, it largely follows a very formal structure of landscape planning from small to extra large. So what I got inspired by Shirish's presentation is sort of getting landscape literally in a very Indian context with wilderness and its institutions. What I'm curious to know is how some of this landscape aspect can be brought into public space design in Indian cities where the public realm by and large is not structured or there is no possible RFPs for landscape planning of streets and escapes and public plazas, particularly from a Calcutta context where we have canals and wetlands. How do you sort of create a document or a dossier coming from public sector or the ownership of municipalities, etc., to define a need for some sort of a planning or intervention?
Rolled up a lot of issues in one little question. So I'll first start with Shirish as to what you are talking about, how we can work out these interventions.
Yes, we are, in Indian cities, we are terribly in deficit of public spaces, open spaces and green spaces. I mean, whatever little portion is there is kind of through vested interests and builders, developer, or the collision between the politicians and the builders, that goes away. Some of the proper stream and water runways are blocked and we get floods. But whatever is left, I think there should be very strict rules for preserving them as green. And every city, I think, should, in the outskirts if possible, or even here inside, there are some pockets which are possible to be converted into wilderness areas. So urban wilderness is, I think, a concept which we should work upon. Like, like in the villages, they have the Devrais. Devrai in Maharashtra, in Konkan, they are a throbbing center, small, very small, not very big, of biodiversity. And those trees were preserved because they were in the precincts of a temple. So because they had that sacred quality to it, nobody cut the trees there. And that kind of a thing, if we can bring about that quality of sacredness to this wilderness, maybe by putting a temple or a small mosque there, small one maybe, or maybe cultivating in the people this awareness or this sacredness towards nature, I think that would help in some.
Would you like to add to this, Virat? Because Hong Kong was mentioned.
Yeah, I think maybe, I'm not only working in Hong Kong, of course, I work in many countries which are kind of growing, coming up, new economies. I think one very curious thing I really noticed, because I've been living in Europe before, there's a lot of money coming in from the public fund, actually, to really bring, more resource to create a lot of public fund. But actually in countries which are like developing countries, I think the government has many issues to really address. And I think one of the ways that now things are happening, that the private sector is joining hand with the government. For example, the park I showed you in Vietnam, actually it's a private company. They're actually like, it's called in UK a planning obligation. So the government will give them the land and then tell them, okay fine, I'm giving you this land, but I want you to really create this park along the beach for the people. So I think another way to really generate, high quality public space. And the second question about what you mentioned, how you can create look at these like a canals, as you say, in a city, depends on access. How well is sometimes the access is not very good. You don't know where the canal is, because it's a resource. For example, in some cities like a river is a resource, but it's on a backside of the development. Nobody wants to go. It's really, it's like a dumping ground. So I think you have to identify those and create big access to those, and then maybe with a partnership between the government and the private, like in planning obligation, we can really, create this environment of which actually, fosters people to really enjoy, nature within the city.
Yes, with the Super Walk, we look for also to change the landscape, but different landscape. The visual landscape, the sound landscape, and social landscape. The visual, because we have to choose what the vegetation, the trees, and what colors they have in different seasons. And you can make different itineraries with colors different also. Will be able a very interesting promenade after that. It's only that you need to know the characteristics of the vegetation first. The second is the sound. We are developing programs to have and to change, to have sound scenarios related with the birds, with the water, with the movement of the leaves, etc. And even the children. You can project and simulate even this. And the last is the social landscape. is very important, because at the end the public space is the common house, is the space to connect and to communicate with the others in a real social cohesion. Is the first element. When people, doesn't import what is not import what is his characteristics and skills, at the end go together and live together. This is.
Okay, thank you, thank you. What was your name? Sorry, I didn't. Huh? Your name? Ayan Sen. Okay, Ayan Sen, I think quite a bit of your question has been answered. But there's one last thing which you mentioned, that can somebody or the government give a dossier with regards to planning principles or design principles with regards to all these things? See, let me tell you one thing, because I've been practicing for quite a long and I've been interacting with the government for long. There is no face in the government. The government is there, but there's no face to it. It is us who advise the government. It is our actions which enable the government to take decisions. So I would put it back to you. I believe you're teaching also. Why don't you do a workshop with students in the with respect to Calcutta? Why don't you do a workshop with students and create a dossier yourself on your own, and then interact with IAA and put it forth in the government, so that then that can actually give a concrete thing to the government, and people in the government can start thinking on your lines, because you know what you want. Getting it? So we have quite a good amount of suggestions from the panel. You can use those suggestions, you can use the pointers given in the slides and bring forth some conclusion to it. Any other person who would like to? Yes, please. At the back. Yes, somebody's got the mic.
Panel, the discussions before, the presentations before, but I'm here to ask you one question, that when the buildings go vertical and we see images that trees are planted on the terraces and on the roofs, what about the wind force? We just have dust storms here in Delhi and all the trees are uprooted on the roadsides. What about when there are really vertical plantations and trees on terraces high above, and images like that?
Architect Bhavika.
Increases. So I think there are technical ways to do this. We have, like steel anchors sometimes. We use this with a root ball and try to anchor them with the certain terraces. And if it's too high, then maybe we cannot really have trees. We have low height shrub. Actually, that might, not tall trees.
So you design the plantation as per the velocity of wind in that particular area.
Yeah, because even the building is designed. Because because the building moves because it's so windy. So I think we have to really consider this as well as a part of design.
Plus, like just you said, in Jaipur, it's too hot at times, so we are closer to the sun when we go vertical. So do we have some special trees also for that? Like, I just understood that yes, structurally you can have it done, but the trees also are really thought about. And if supposing that city does not have those kind of trees, are they imported or things like that?
I think kind of dries up all the moisture from the tree. So you have to find trees which can grow in a desert condition, which is needs very little water. And again, at the same time, you're working on different countries where I think the new regulation, or not new regulation, as a part of a kind of responsible designer, we cannot import trees so far away which cannot grow in this certain condition. So you have to look at those parameters. But I think and sometimes if the natural tree cannot really fulfill the requirement of shade, maybe unfortunately, or sometimes as a part of the design statement, we have to go through some artificial way of shading. So I think there are means and ways actually to address these conditions. But at the end of the day, we have to work with the climate, to the environment, because these are growing things. I mean, unless you use a plastic tree, which I not recommend.
Okay, we have one last question in front. Yes. Do we have the mic out there?
Maybe I can just loud that.
Standing in front of Sirish sir.
I'm Apeksha, graduate from SIT SEPT Ahmedabad, practicing in Delhi, married to an architect from SEPT Ahmedabad. So my honeymoon started with lessons in architecture from Charles Correa and Sirish Berry and Corbusier. So that's how my honeymoon went off. And the biggest take in this today's forum about the balance between the ecosystem and everything. And I open this question to all three of you. Salvador sir, I would begin with you. The two buildings I think they are in Barcelona. One is a park which has been made on an old railway station tracks or something.
That is New York, High Line.
No, sir. I think they have a park and they have some nice dynamic walls which are coming up, and this is what I remember as a student taking up as one of the case studies. And second is some building near a water body in Barcelona which is based on mathematics and architecture, where the facade is designed on inspiration from the logarithms in mathematics, which all of us would have studied part of students in school. Second issue that you talked about was
Wait. What was the first question? You will have to be a little slow because he's not very good with English.
So question is yet to start. I was talking of the two case studies which I have come across. One is a park which I believe is in Barcelona, built on some old railway tracks around that. Got two dynamic walls cladded with some ceramic tiles. Second is a project which is based on mathematics in architecture and has got facade which is worked out based on the logarithms in mathematics. Third point in this, which you put forward, was the electrical vehicles, right? And you just talked about visual landscape, sound landscape, and social landscape. And Sir Sirish has showed a project of IT where he has created an alternative workplaces for the engineers over there. So all these developments are we in the process of creating alternative workplaces for people, including your super blocks, including the terrace landscape where you had the pool around in a place like Hong Kong, and sir, including the IT space that you created or your own workplace. So is this everything leading to an alternative workplaces where a person is actually not required to go to an office to work and just sit at an inspirational space to continue working?
Please sit down.
In Barcelona, in this moment, the city council, the municipality, is involved in a very big project to change all in the city. Not only the urban mobility plan, like I explained before. The Superwalk is also a urbanism project. It means it's the base of the new urbanism. We design the ecosystemic urbanism, and we have a certification of this, and include all the aspects that you ask. It means the green roof, the green facades, the different elements in the three level, okay? And also, in this moment, the City Council launched a project to help the private families to make with money to make green roofs in Barcelona, for example. But not only green roof, also green facades, etc. Is in this moment a process to change practically all to improve and reduce also the dysfunction, the current dysfunction related with the air pollution, with the heat island effect, etc., etc. Okay, and in our case, we can make this because we have 50 people working in planification of this. We can relate practically all the variables in an ecosystemic approach. Okay,
That's something which I like now Shirish to answer the other part of her question.
It's not that she asked whether That means we don't go to our workplaces and just sit
It is about the alternative workplaces.
alternative workspace. It's not just an alternative workspace, it's an alternative attitude to life. That is very important.
Nee, she didn't like the fact you mentioned that you made your office between the boulders. That is what she's trying to say.
No. That was for 3 days only. No, what I'm trying to say is change in attitudes is more important, and that if the change in attitudes comes about, today the attitude is that of commodification. You know, you commodify relationship, you commodify architecture, you commodify everything. You know, but suppose we don't look at ourselves as the center of the universe, try to decide what is to be cut, what is to be exploited, what is to be done. But if we look at ourselves as an integral part of this totality of life, this wholeness of life, the whole attitude changes. Then the workspace kind of changes, the food habits change, the way you sleep, the way you interact, everything changes. So I think in today's society, I think what we need is some very fundamental changes. Because I remember a sentence which Krishnamurti said, okay, it is not a measure of health, it's not a measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. So
I'd like to hand over the mic back to our hall in charge, architect Sneha Sharma. Please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. It was a wonderful session. I'm sure some points must have really intrigued everyone. I would now like to call upon Mr. Amol Palekar to please felicitate the speakers. Presenting the memento to Mr. Shirish Berry. Then we have architect Virat Chatterjee. Now we have Mr. Salvatore Rueda. And our moderator, architect Mukul Goyal. Thank you, sir. Please.
Not merely as a celebrity, and that's why I resisted doing this bit of the ceremony. I'm here, and I wish I was introduced like that. I'm here as an artist. I'm a qualified painter, and I started my career in the same environment and premises, that of JJ College of Architecture. I am part of the Fine Arts School in the same vicinity, same campus. And I'm back here only as an artist. In fact, a question that I have in mind, and I'm trying to, please. I'm trying to find answers to my own little question, which not only with the absolute thespians and celebrities who are here, but I would like to share it with all of you too. If we say that the first expression that a man or a human being had was to paint, which is historically, we can't question that. All the cave paintings and everything. So, if that is the first expression that a human being thought of, so taking the same thought further, and we like to believe that it is the mother, why doesn't it incorporate this first very expression in you designed everything. You design the greenery part of it, you design the spaces part of it, you even think of designing the cultural space to this very first expression, which is the visual art. Why are we not thinking on these, going back to our roots in a true sense, is something which bothers me as an artist. Why do we always look at art? Oh, this wall, I can have an M.F. Hussain painting after I have designed the wall. Why not think of having a wall which, along with Mr. Hussain or whosoever the artist is, think what could be the space, which can be slightly more richer, slightly more expressive, be it a private space, somebody's home, or be it a public space. I don't see such thought, and which disturbs me. I thought I will be able to find some answers, and I'm still hoping that I'll be able to find some answers during this entire exercise, which all the practitioners who are passionately involved with this are trying to do. I sincerely hope I'll be able to find some answer, and beyond that, I sincerely hope that we together as artists will be able to join hands and make the spaces little more meaningful, little more enriching, and little more responsible to everything that we are trying to reach out to. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I think this is another thought for all of us to carry home. I want that everybody who leaves this hall should have a list of things to do when he goes back. And this is one of them, that we must collaborate or encourage clients also to understand the importance of visual arts in the whole scenario of a project. Thank you once again. And Sneha, please invite everybody.
I would now like to wrap up this session with a word of thanks to our hall sponsors, Bravit and Craft. And I invite everybody to join us for lunch on the second floor. And please take out time to visit the building material exhibition showcase. Thank you, everyone.